Just do it Dragnet style, and then we'll fucking figure that out.
Boom. Did you know that, like, you were listening, I swear to drunk I'm not God again, because Sal was talking about Dragnet. And also, we're back for part 2 of Mitrice, The Curious Case of Mitrice Richardson. I hope you had a wonderful week. We're drinking the same shit because this isn't a different day for us. But
it feels like it, though.
This feels like work. This is a long case. I've learned that having 2 weeks just puts me in that moment where I'm just like, I have way too much time to look these people up, and then I find too much information.
You love it though. I do. Love it.
I fuck with this, and I'm gonna be honest. I didn't say this the first time. This was my mom's idea. Mitrice was my mom's idea.
She lives in LA, so I mean, maybe it's still prominent.
Well, one she said every now and then she thinks about her. That's what she said.
Oh shit.
She said every now and again she thinks about her because she first.
It's relevant to her too. She was an adult when this happened.
Sure. And 2, like, me and Mitrice are technically the same age.
Yeah.
Kira is probably the age of her younger sister, you know, and there's a connection. Actually, Mitrice and my mother share the same middle name too.
That's too much of a weird, not coincidence, but like there's a lot of overlapping.
There's some synchronicity.
Shit that she'd probably be like, oh shit, this could have like been my family. Like,
yeah,
could have been me.
Yeah,
but we won't put that out there.
Of course, we're not gonna put that in the universe. That's not what we're saying. But I definitely, you know, when she said it right before she left for Christmas break, she was like, "You should do one on Mitrice." And me and Dustin talked about this because I was like, Are you listening? Are you listening? Yeah. Because when she was staying in my second bedroom, like my bag, those little reusable bags I had made was like hanging on the door, but it has a QR code on it, which gives you a straight up connection to the show. And at that point I was like, I wonder if she like low key been listening this whole time, because I told her not to listen to it because I was like, I curse too much. I'm one of those people. I'm still mad, like respectful of her in that way. She's comfortable with me cursing. She knows that I do. But like I also try to just like limit it to like in context moments and like moments when I'm really, really upset, because they have a better, they're not
words.
Yeah, and they don't feel as weird, because I'm like, why am I just like, cussing, yeah, mom, what the fuck? Like that's not me. That's not how I roll.
Oh my God! Oh, parents. Parents just don't understand.
Parents just don't understand. Honestly, like she understands, but we ain't that cool. Like she's not my friend. She's my mother. So
she was on me. Yeah, that's one of those. Your parents should be your friends. I think there was this a whole TED talk or couch talk with. Was it Red Couch Circle?
Red Table Talk.
Yeah, one of those.
Okay.
Where they were like,
the Red Couch table.
Couch Circle. Chairs. Ottoman. The Red Ottoman.
It was Michelle Obama that said you can't be your friends. You can't be your friends. Kids your friends, because friends don't. Yeah, your parents were.
Yeah, I'm not
generation.
No, I'm not kicking. I mean, I kick it with my mom and I fuck with my mom, but like, I don't want her to be like hearing me being like, this fucking bitch is acting like a psycho. Like, no. So. Anyway, if she's listening to it, hi mom, love you, mean it. But at the same time, like I would prefer it if you didn't. But Mitrice Richardson,
if you're listening,
don't mention it.
And hit stop.
If you're listening, stop. But I appreciate her bringing this into because she told me about this a couple years ago. It was a while ago. She told me about Mitrice, and when she saw it, she was just like, "This is the wildest shit I've ever heard," and it's weird that I've never heard about it like on a national. Yeah, she didn't remember seeing it, and we've always kind of been obsessed with like true crime. So it's not like it's just because it's not a part of our awareness. It was just that this didn't get national attention. That's number one. It got national attention, but not in the way that John Benet Ramsey and like, you know, all of those other people get.
Because she's black.
Sure. Yeah. Because we all know that white woman missing syndrome is a difference. It definitely makes a difference. So, but anyway, y'all, I'm so happy y'all back. I guess I don't know. You may not have ever left. We never left. So we're gonna get
still here,
still present. We're gonna get into the second half now. We left off on some other shit. If you don't remember what it was, you should probably just listen to it, because I'm too drunk to recap it.
And this is part 2. You should probably listen to part 1 before you listen to part 2.
Sequential order is the best way to go. Even though I will say my mom watches TV shows backwards.
Huh. You told me she also reads books backwards.
Yeah, she wants to know the ending first.
I cannot. I would never want
to finish the book. I'd read the ending and be like, never mind.
Now I know the story.
Yeah.
But to her, it's kind of like, no, I got to see what leads up to it.
I get that. I mean, I don't mind spoilers. Like if somebody like spoil something on the internet about a TV show, I'm like,
I'm also forgetful. So if I do that, I'll be like,
probably won't remember anyway.
I'm going to forget anyway. So it's fine.
Okay. So let's do this. Now, we left off with her whack ass dad, Lewis.
That man.
Lewis is problematic. He was biting at Mitrice about wanting to like first of all, setting up this PI that he didn't pay for, which has always infuriated me. A private investigator that you literally said that was the agreement, that you were going to find the private investigator and that was going to be your concern. You send me this strongly worded email with like all this mob shit in it, acting like these people are going to kill us if we don't pay them. And this put her in a weird space because, for her, she's kind of like, fuck you. You have fucked this up. Because now I'm involved in some shit possibly that's criminal. Yeah. And that totally takes away from looking for her.
Or what if they find her and then they kill her?
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't pay for it.
Exactly. And two, then for you to do all this weird shit, talking about her having bipolar disorder, talking about her having a brain aneurysm, talking about how like her daughter was talking shit about like them having $80,000 but wouldn't give her money for her books. I'm like, but you're not contributing anything. So to me, sir, you really don't have a license to have an opinion. None of what you say matters to me. You're not helping. You're only creating the problem. So I want to say kind of fuck that dude. Like he's a dickhole. And honestly, I've seen him in documentaries and he's always so very teary-eyed and upset. I do think this is a stress response. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a stress response. He needs somebody to blame this on. And I felt like he's probably felt powerless throughout this throughout Mitrice's entire life. And I feel like the person that he knows that he can take this out on is Mitrice, because Mitrice, one, allows it, which pisses me off about her. And two, Mitrice is just so focused and, heavy on Mitrice. She's like, motherfucker, I ain't worried about our relationship.
No. And like I said this off when we were already done. I'm like, this motherfucker is just an opportunist.
Yeah.
And he wants to blame his last relationship and everything else on his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And he thinks, this is a perfect opportunity to defame her and make her feel like, she's like not doing what she's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But you're just opportunist. You want to get money.
Yeah.
You want to get, no donations, but we want to do, some fundraising. Oh, well, it's still income for you, bro.
It is.
I know.
And you want to do a private eye, but you don't want to pay for it though? Like you want to do a private eye, but you're not going to contribute shit.
No.
Do it on your own. Don't tell me about what you're doing. If you find her, find her.
That's it. And
let me know when you do, though.
We don't have to be a unit. Honestly,
no co-signing.
I mean, it's like we don't have to be friends during this process at all.
Yeah.
Like we don't. We could easily just fuck each other off and like you do you, I'll do me. And if we find her, then great.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how this parenting situation has been anyway until recently. So Lewis can kiss my ass. Sorry. Okay. So they wouldn't talk for months after this Tyler Perry episode.
Okay.
Just this some ghetto ass shit. And mind you, Mitrice is still missing. So Mitrice is like paranoid because her address is on the flyers and she's kind of like, who did this motherfucker tap into? And I need to move because now I don't know what's coming.
So scary.
Yeah. To have this going on and now you're concerned about your own safety when that wasn't even ever supposed to happen. Meanwhile, she's trying to gain traction with the search. She's reaching out to AG Attorney General Eric Holder, who is Black. Nothing. And then she's doing interviews and press conferences. She had her DNA collected by the LAPD just in case an unidentified person was found. They even started doing all these interviews on Mitrice's background, which Mitrice thought was completely a waste of time. They went through Mitrice's journals, which were in her car, and her social media accounts, and had them analyzed by a forensic psychologist who determined that she was having a bipolar episode leading up to her disappearance. Now, they also determined that she had not slept in 3 days. From there, they decided to do another search. Now, at this time, Lewis is communicating with the sheriff's department and sends Mitrice a shitty text. Now he's getting ghetto. He ain't even worried about grandma no more. He goes, you have some fucking nerves.
Damn.
Acting like the mother that gave a damn about Mitrice. You sat up there and you told them clans to keep my fucking daughter and let her rot in jail. Your soul should burn in hell, you fucking witch. I can't wait till it's your turn. God has a cold sense of humor. You're going to need more drugs because you should be so lucky to get away with a nervous breakdown. Poor April. Give that child to her dad because you just as guilty as the sheriffs. I just want it to be the first because once it's out, what you said, you should need more than therapy. I hope you're haunted by what you did and said to my daughter. Kind of sounds like he's having his own episode to me, because it's like clearly we've reached the point where he's realized that she said that shit about letting her sit in jail for a minute. So Letitia's kind of struggling.
And he would have like a whole different opinion because he's a crip.
Sure. So Letitia's kind of already struggling with guilt. She regrets not going to the station immediately. She regrets the head chopped off joke. She regrets trusting the sheriffs. She feels like shit, and he's adding insult to injury. And which is completely useless and unproductive. It doesn't help to find Mitrice at all. And so she was not notified at all that this is all because Lee Baca, who was the sheriff at the time, he was only in communication with Lewis. So he was only giving information to Mitrice's father, not Lettice. He goes, this is what Lee Baca said. We have been in contact with Mr. Richardson, who we believe would update the family. I will be sure to make contact with you with any information going forward. That's strike 5.
He's
when asked if there
misogynistic.
Yeah.
Just a little.
And when asked if there was any surveillance footage of Mitrice, Captain Martin said, no, we don't have any video footage of Mitrice. The cameras do not record. After a little pushback, Martin says, we do have a recording of her in the interior area of the building, but not on the exterior area of the station. That's strike 6.
So either you do or you don't.
So you don't watch your own
surveillance,
or you
Thank
don't watch
you.
Entry and exit.
Why the fuck are y'all lying? Why did you lie about that?
This is bullshit.
Why did you lie about? Apparently, they had always told them from the very beginning that they didn't have footage. There was no footage at the restaurant, unfortunately, which I find very interesting. But Lettice can't trust these motherfuckers at this point. So she asks if the FBI can get involved. At the time of her disappearance, it's believed that Mitrice had grandiose psychosis stemming from a bipolar episode. She had a couple things going on. She was in a one-sided relationship with a girl she really liked. She was trying to work on her relationship with her father. She did not really rock with how her stepdad was moving, because that was her mom was in the middle of a divorce. He had apparently hurt April and Lettice. Don't know how. I assumed it was verbal. I didn't get the vibe that it was physical or sexual. Not sure in what way at all. But there was an instance where Mitrice threatened to kill him, which makes me think there was some sort of abuse.
Sort of violence. That's not,
She had an obsession with numerology, and she would write out formulas. And she would spell out I as in me with I as in like an eyeball. She was also super a little bit religious. And she had this strange connection to music and musical artists, and her messages to her mom were weird. Here's a couple. So at 6:32 a.m., she texted her mother and said, because I had a strong feeling, something just went words. That don't make no sense, right? I just couldn't find the words. All I know is I had a dream and a man did come true. Ask Sally, she'll tell you. It's not
Sally's
Jesse,
not one of the ex-girlfriends or nobody. We don't know who she is.
6:40 a.m. LOL, because everything we know is a lie, but I can't prove it right now. Everyone just has to wait. I always thought I was an Oakland kind of gal.
So wait, when are these messages? I mean, I know the time, but what day?
They all the same day.
Right. When do these come in comparison to when she disappeared?
This was obviously before she disappeared.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but like she didn't say like what day. Like if it was, I think it was like a week before.
Okay.
So she didn't say exactly what day.
Like was it that morning before she disappeared or like?
Well, because the text exchange was a part of like the MySpace thing.
Got it.
And which leading up to the disappearance, there was like subsequent. There were the questions. There were questions about the erratic behavior before she snapped. There was a very short period between these messages.
Got it.
That's why they're even bringing them up, because they feel like it's a part of the same episode.
All of it.
Why did she say she's an Oakland kind of girl?
I don't know.
What is that a reference to a song?
Well, so what I learned is that when I was reading those text messages, she makes a lot of musical references.
Yeah, I'm saying maybe it's a lyric.
Yeah, and sometimes she would quote certain things, and she would say it in text like it was her. You know what I'm saying? So at 6:50 a.m., she says somewhere down the road, I think a knowledgeable preacher, father, and an understanding teacher, mother, got separated. Generations of separations later, I realized, man, Daddy, thanks for coming back, because now that my eyes are reading, I see a world of mothers. One wants to fuck, and sons of bitches. As a mommy, teacher, and spirit, I don't know about bringing joy into the world of lost words. That's at 6:50.
Oh.
Her mother texts back at 7:30 a.m. Mitrice, I'm not understanding. This is what I wrote. What have you taken care of? This was her quote that she says she texted her. And then she says, no, I didn't know your name meant that, explaining how. This is what you responded. Her mom is saying, I don't understand what you're telling me. I ask you one thing, you're saying something else. Different. Because I want to explain that, because what she's saying in this text message you won't get, because I'm not reading the text messages that she is referring to. So then Mitrice goes on at 7:45 and she says that I never liked Darnell and he was never my dad. And you can't just make a kid call someone other than their father dad. It's betrayal. But now I know it served a bigger purpose. Thank you for being a mother before anything. April is my blessing. I am yours. And for that, I will let Darnell live, because April is my blood. So you paid the price to spare his life.
Oh, she's
okay.
Sounds like
it's getting a little violent.
She's breaking.
7:52. Kay, this is what the mom says. Kay, thank you for the detail. It's deep. I need to get settled and meditate on what you shared. That's what her mom says, which I'm like, that's not enough.
That's not at all enough.
Mitrice, 7:58. Okay, give April a kiss. Tell her she made me a card that says I love you. I had it with me all along. I just had to get pulled over to find it. Ha ha ha.
Oh.
She would text and post on MySpace and Facebook on September 16th. This is actually September 16th, so I lied.
So this is okay.
So yeah, she texted on September 16th from 12:28 a.m. to 1:34 p.m. A bunch of erratic shit. Here's a few more that stuck out to me. 9 a.m. Geez, I have so much to say, but no one is ever around. Guess I gotta take it to my dream world, Robin Thicke. There's a song called Dream World by Robin Thicke, by the way. 9:50. Have you ever woke up 7 a.m. crying on Saturday? Because now that you see the light, you see all the people lost in the dark. Welcome to my reality. Mood. Mother. Smiley face. 11:09. Why can't I find it? It feels like every time I find myself, everyone wants to beat me back down to where I once was. I want everyone to be happy. I choose to try and make everyone happy, because in the midst of their happiness will be their love. She said that in that poem. 12:45 p.m. The Spirit of the Lord will prove it. Ha ha. And let the church say Anna. Anna was the girl she was fucking with.
Oh.
Last text, 1:34 p.m. Mitrice would say she received a message from God telling her to take the afternoon off.
Okay.
She is off and running.
Now, when Latice finally got the video from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, you could see Mitrice rocking back and forth and pulling at her hair. There's also a moment where Mitrice tries to make a phone call using the payphone, but the phone doesn't work. So at some point, someone hands her a phone. She dials, but starts hanging up to redial. Turns out the phone only makes local calls. She couldn't call her grandmother because her grandmother wasn't local. Strike 7. Why are you giving a girl a phone call? Why are you giving her a phone? Knowing that she's not from the area. Knowing that she's dialing a phone number that she can't technically actually connect to.
So wait, California's separated that way when that's not local because she's in LA and
I guess so.
I didn't even know phones did that, by the way.
Oh, okay. I was looking.
No,
at
I'm like,
my only guess is because it's this particular sheriff's department.
Or is a different area code, like in Chicago.
I think
312-773.
Yeah, because it's not like she's out of state. She's not out of state.
It's so local, though.
But for some reason, it's like if you're in 323, you're telling me I can't dial into 213? It's all LA.
213, 323, 310.
Yeah. Like, why can't I dial into another? I don't want.
You're still it's just a different area code. It's not a different state.
Exactly. Now, my other guess was like, well, maybe her grandmother, because her grandmother, I assumed had a landline because
she's 91 and. I mean, this is also 2009.
Yeah. Right. So I'm like, she could have had a cell phone, but if she's in California, wouldn't she? I mean, if she had a 773 number, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, her mom had I don't know what.
Well, I mean, I guess in 2009, more people still had. I can see somebody at 91 still having a landline. Cell phones were becoming. Everybody had one, but I still feel like older generations still had landlines, so that could be a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, we're 2020. My mom still has a landline.
Yeah, I mean, my mom has a landline too. But I mean, yeah, no.
I know, but like even being an older person, I highly doubt a 90-year-old person was going to have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just deduction, like,
Dustin, come closer.
2009.
Yeah. Like,
Dustin, come closer to your mic.
Phone, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't get the whole area code thing. Like,
yeah, that's weird.
It's weird. Like, why? But first of all, even if you're trying to keep your employees from doing that, you got a payphone in the facility that doesn't work, that the people who are in jail are actually supposed to use. And then when she's provided a phone that I'm assuming is just like a desk phone, then she can't dial out to who she needs to talk to.
That doesn't make sense.
And but Latice found out on the tour of the station when they were talking about like what happened in the station, that the phone call only dialed local numbers, and Mitrice's grandmother's number was not local. So I don't know if Mitrice's grandma lived in Mississippi at some point or some shit. And still
had that same phone. She brought her cell phone.
It didn't give me cell phone either when the first call happened. I thought that this number that this woman knew she had for many years, which would tell me it's a fucking landline.
Oh, right, because she knew the number by heart, and like you don't. Yeah.
I mean, what doesn't make sense is, so out of all the phones and all that precinct, you gave her
the one
phone
that doesn't work.
She couldn't call. When you, as a reference, a sheriff's department, whatever this substation is, you're not able to call 213.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not able to call 323.
That's weird.
You're not able to call 310.
Because being in that area, you most likely pick up people from different parts of the county all the time.
All the time. But if you needed to talk to somebody at a LAPD,
yeah.
Well, I don't.
It's ridiculous.
It's just really weird. But then, even though she didn't get excuse me, she didn't get a hold of anybody. Like, why would you then still let her wander out into the middle of nowhere? She couldn't call anybody. Like,
but this is what triggered me too. Well, then, how did the jailer talk to Latice?
Because Latice called them.
So you think that it can't make outgoing local calls, but maybe you can receive calls.
Well, yeah, it's like, I mean, like back in the day when, we used to pay for long distance phone calls, like the person that called had to pay the fee. So if I wanted to call, and I mean, so if you lived in, long distance used to be like on the landlines, used to pay for it like by the minute, but only the person that made the call paid for it. So I got long distance privileges. You don't. I live in Oregon.
So I can make the call.
I can make the call to Chicago to talk to you, but I can't call you. Or it's even like
this is all sus.
But it's just still weird that a municipality.
Oh yeah, that's dumb.
Doesn't have full.
And if you had to call the FBI, what would you do?
Well,
I mean, they're obviously.
I mean, that would then actually put that like law enforcement communicates. I mean, there's so many stores where law enforcement doesn't communicate with each other anyway. So I mean.
It's weird.
It's just weird though. It's stupid. It's
so
Yeah.
so that's
Should have the top phone
that's
line, you would
fucking
think.
strike 7. And at this point, the jailer comes into frame in the video and escorts Mitrice out of the door. There was an officer spotted leaving right behind Mitrice, which made Latice think that maybe he knew something. Latice believes that if Mitrice would have asked an officer for a ride, she was in her right mind, which is what they said she was, because they felt like she was coherent enough to leave. So this is what I will say from personal fucking experience. Even if she was crazy and she decided to wander into, I mean, like, chronically crazy people will wander into like the abyss and just fucking disappear. If they felt like, oh, she was having conversations with people and she seemed like okay and we let her go, I do agree with Latice that maybe even if she was still kind of acting crazy, that she would have enough sense to ask someone for a ride. Not saying that it was one of the sheriffs, but it could have just been someone
some
on
random
her walk.
stranger she hitchhiked almost.
Yeah, like, hey, can I get a ride? You know what I'm saying? Like if she was still kind of in that zone.
That also makes sense to where the person said that she was trespassing. Mm-hmm. She might have just been like, knock, knock, knock. I need some fucking help.
Mm-hmm. True.
Can I use your phone?
True.
And now
And they
somebody's
didn't
calling.
answer.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, there's a black
But
girl.
that's not.
There's a black girl on my, like, I'm not answering my door.
But that's not the interaction. I'm going to tell you what the interaction was. Because when she runs into that house or whatever, they never interact with her beyond yelling at her, asking her who she was and if she was okay. Because it's a big property that they have. She was a distance away. And they had like this little set of steps that like in their backyard that leads to like the hills. Or like a trail, like a horse trail.
Oh.
And they saw her resting on their backyard steps. That's when they asked her. They were like, what's going on?
Why
Are
you just selling in our
okay?
backyard? You
And
good?
she said, I'm resting.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. She just walked 6 miles. I'd be
Exactly.
resting too.
So,
In the middle of the
but
night. That's scary.
Yeah, seriously. So again, Mitrice reaches out to the LAPD detectives. 1, who was the deputy exiting the building just after Mitrice was released? 2, where did he see Mitrice go? 3, did he offer her assistance? If yes, explain. If no, explain. 4, where did this deputy go after leaving the station? 5, what time did he arrive? 6, what evidence corroborates his whereabouts? 7, what calls did he make from his cell phone between the hours of 12 a.m. and 8 a.m.? 8, who are the people contacted? 9, why were they contacted? 10, have you searched the vehicle's residents and vacation residents, if any, of the deputy or any of the and all parties contacted during the stated hours? 11, if you are not going to investigate, then why? Where she's fucking up with this, she's isolating this to a police officer, which is gonna all of a sudden make these motherfuckers not do anything anymore.
Defensive, like.
So they hit her with the, I have received your list of concerns. I will discuss them with the appropriate entities, personnel, and respond back to you once I have answers on this or direction.
Never.
4 months later, on January 9th, 2010, the LAPD set up another search, which consisted of dogs, search and rescue teams, helicopters, and drones.
Oh, cool.
The
Why did it
sheriff's
take so long?
Yeah. The sheriff's department also participated. The search covered 18 miles, and there were more than 156,671 acres of terrain to search.
Wow.
They also searched with Orange County and San Bernardino County police departments. Now, during the search, she overheard Lewis making a case why he believed a deputy was involved and saying that Mitrice was fine and sexy as hell, which would be the reason why she would be taken advantage of.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm never out for ruling the police out. People of power, people tend to go to jobs where they can and take
Yes,
advantage.
but if you need,
you can't.
But if you need help in this process, you as her father sitting at a search saying that your daughter is fine and sexy as hell, and that
that's weird.
this is the reason why she would be taken
Kidnapped.
advantage of is kind of disgusting.
That is, that's.
So Latisse also had another search in June with a man by the name of Maurice Mo Dubois. He had a 14-year-old daughter named Amber who went missing in February 2009. Amber's skeletal remains were found March 2010 after she was kidnapped, raped, and stabbed by a man named John Albert Gardner. And he was a serial rapist, a child molester, and a murderer. Needless to say, Mo was well versed in the process, and he helped coordinate a 2-day search for Mitrice, an all volunteer group. There were no police. They didn't find much on the search, but they did run into this weird mural. Now, this mural is interesting. The mural was called Enter the Afro.
Oh, cool.
When Mitrice was spotted at the back of that house, when he called in, he said there was an African American woman and her hair is in an afro because she had like out her curls. She had loose curl pattern, but her curls were blown out. Plus, when she was in jail, she had been pulling at her hair, so she kind of
was rocking back and forth, pulling at her hair.
Yes. So at that point, Enter the Afro, seeing this mural, which was kind of hidden, and it was actually drawn on like one of those like drainage holes.
Dope.
So
Do you have a picture of that to share?
What?
You have a picture of that to share?
Yeah, and it's disgusting.
Yeah. Oh.
The mural was a sexually graphic depiction of a black woman with an afro in various stages of sexual humiliation and torture.
Wasn't expecting to go there.
Yeah. Here's how Latisse explained the mural. Looking at this sick and twisted depiction, it appeared to be telling a sick story, not in any chronological order, but in an order in which terrible things happen. Immediately, my eyes went straight to the large drawing of a woman laying on her back with her legs spread wide apart, revealing the openings of her vagina and anus. There was nothing shocking about the anus other than the shock of seeing a very larger-than-life drawing of it. The vagina, on the other hand, showed a swollen clitoris, with the lips of the vagina being spread open to reveal the birth of a miniature-sized woman with an afro and full breasts coming out of the vagina. Head and breast first. The coloring of the woman was vivid and full of life, with bright red and brown tones. To the left of the vagina, giving birth, was a naked woman with a afro hula hooping backward. She too was drawn with bright colored tones of red and brown, as if she was full of life. To the right of the vagina giving birth was a woman with an afro upside down facing forward. It was not clear if she was being dropped head first from somewhere or if she was hanging backward over something. All that was certain was that she was upside down and the coloring of the woman was full of life. To the right of the woman who's upside down was a naked woman with an afro in a wheelchair. The color tone of the woman had changed from a lively red and brown to a yellow tone outlined by a light grayish blue tone, as if she was starting to lose life slowly. This figure appeared to be in pain. Going back over to the left side of the vagina giving birth, to the left of the woman hula hooping, was a depiction of a naked woman with an afro backward being dropped head first. She had the same coloring as the woman in the wheelchair, yellow with light grayish blue outlining, as if she was losing life slowly. In this depiction, as she was being dropped, she was reaching as if she was trying to break her fall. While she was falling, there was a depiction of a curly red-headed, blue-eyed individual with a nose ring looking at the images of the woman with a slight smile and big excited eyes, as if he was enjoying what he was seeing. It was really creepy. Then there was a depiction of the afro-haired woman on her hands and knees as if she was crawling, with the letters LA written on her right butt cheek, what appeared to be a marijuana joint in her mouth and smoke exuding from the joint. The coloring of the woman was as if she was closer to death. The entire body was painted medium gray brown colored tone. Looking at that particular image confirmed for me that this illustration was about Mitrice. Three things that have been very publicized was Mitrice's afro hair being stated in the police recording from the resident who called the sheriff's station because Mitrice was in his backyard. Mitrice lived in LA, and Mitrice was cited for having less than an ounce of marijuana in her vehicle. The last image that unraveled me completely, although it was not the last image, there were more, was the image of an afro-haired woman laying on her back with her right arm stretched above her head, and the eyes were drawn like large triangles. It appears as if the person was close to death, if not dead. The color tone was deep reddish black outlined in white. The mouth was drawn like it was grimacing. It goes without saying that I absolutely lost all composure after viewing this mural. This cannot be a coincidence. It included specific taunts that would likely be meaningless to anyone. Specifically, Mitrice's hair in her mugshot, which I will post, looked like an afro. Mitrice lived in LA. Mitrice had marijuana in her car, and Mitrice went missing in the immediate area. You draw your conclusion.
That's crazy. Like, that's some irony for your ass.
When she shared the discovery with the detective, he said, "This is the work of a tagger who paints women with afros as part of his collection." I think this is
And
bullshit.
that's it.
That's
That's all he said.
That was it.
What?
I think it's bullshit. Look,
Could it be a mixture of the two though? Like somebody knew the case. How public was this case? Was it a tagger that decided
I'm
to?
locally, yes. But my only issue is this. We work in an industry where we find taggers and we pay them to clear their artwork on mural walls. If the LA detective or deputy is saying so confidently that this is the work of a tagger and it's a part of his collection, then I need proof that that's what that is.
Yeah.
We also find these artists.
Find them.
They know who the artists are.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the police have not obtained this person, this tagger, this. If you know who the tagger is, then why are they not questioned?
Right.
Why are they not?
Right.
And do they
that's
know the
It's not allowed
tagger
to
though?
be
But I mean, do they know the tagger? Or
Well,
they
that's
just
the-
know that
and that's the
just a
infuriating.
tagger?
If that's the infuriating part, is she's just supposed to take your word for it.
Yeah.
This is the work of a tagger. Well, then, bitch, then we need to be talking to the
We
tagger
need to
because
figure out who
just
this
because
tagger
he's a
is.
graffiti artist doesn't mean he's also not a murdering rapist.
I also didn't know that pornographic graffiti was allowed to just sit on a wall.
It literally isn't though, because in this particular area they arrest motherfuckers and fine them a lot
For
of money
tagging.
for doing that shit. So it's funny when you got a sheriff's deputy basically saying that it's the work of a tagger. Motherfucker didn't find, since you know his collection so well, find the tagger. Why is he not getting in trouble for it?
And that's it, because I mean, if that's his collection, that's still some sick shit. Like,
It
why
is.
is that?
What else
Why
is
is
in
that
his
why you're
collection,
choosing
though?
Right.
to paint
Well,
naked dead women?
So
black women?
what they compared, they did end up finding some tagger, and they noticed that there was like the way he would draw, like the spines and like certain images were similar, right? But to me, but even then, like Rita found out, she was like, okay, so is the tagger going to get in trouble? Because let's say, even if he is taunting us, because it wasn't anywhere that was like, oh, you can see it off the street. He hid it. He hid it in a remote area.
And let's be for real, that's not what taggers want. They want
They want
notoriety.
attention.
They want attention.
And that's what Rita said. Rita was like, people who do
This
murals
is personal.
typically want to put it out in the forefront so people can see it.
This sounds
People
like a
who put
serial
it off
killer
of
to
a
me.
fucking beaten path is a fucking freak.
Well, that sounds like a serial. It's like his. It's how he relives the kill. Maybe.
Or
it
he,
sounds like it was for him.
yes,
That's what I'm saying. He goes and
or
relives it.
it's
Like, he
it's
gets to
Yeah,
go
and,
see-
he goes and
and that's what they compared it to. They said it could be
Like a
one of those
trophy.
moments where it's like a trophy, where a rapist will take some underwear, or a killer would take something from, or a robber or something. It's a self gratifying moment,
And it's-
but also there's no guarantee that he did. He doesn't mean he killed anybody. He could have witnessed something.
This is what I'm saying. Is the tagger redheaded with a ring in his nose?
Okay, so there's that.
There's the dude that's at the bottom of the mural watching. all
Who
of this
is
happen.
this? That's not the afroed image.
Even if you didn't do it, is this you witnessing what happened?
Exactly.
You saw her. You saw this happen, and you're just a sick fuck that likes to fucking paint what you saw.
yeah.
If that's true, then you're a suspect.
Yeah. So why are you not putting more energy, one, into figuring out who this tagger is? Because it's too similar to what is going on.
Correct.
Why are you not questioning this person? Why does that make you comfortable
Why
to
are they
just
not
say
a
this is a
suspect?
part of his collection? And then even Rita, she was like, okay, but it's still illegal for him to do this.
To do that. I mean, first of all, there's a crime in itself.
Period.
And he could be tied to the crime that we're trying to solve.
Period.
Too. And it's like, why can't you just...
Why
do
can't
some
we
beat
bring
work
him
and
in?
figure out who this
Because
dude
there
is?
are too many similarities. You know, it's like she is from LA, the Afro thing. He could be just taunting them. But even if he's still taunting them, there's no crime in taunting anybody. But the tagging is what's illegal. You didn't find him. You didn't arrest him. You don't even really seem to care about anything that this kid has done. So, you know, to me, I'm kind of like, I was getting irritated because I know when we film in areas where mural art is in the background, we make a point to make sure we reach out to that person, pay that person, because it's going to be in our frame. And if
which is so dope to do.
And in California, you can't tell me that you don't have that as a process. So I say, if you know this guy's collection, bring him in. We need to have a conversation. Explain this to me.
Yeah, that sounds about
Because
right.
look at it this way. If a child in kindergarten keeps drawing images of shooting his teacher, you would pull that kid out of class
And ask what the hell
and
is
you would
happening.
say, what is happening? Where is this coming from? What is this about? Why are you doing it? How are you feeling about your instructor? Is there something going on that we should know?
Mm-hmm.
I can't necessarily say you're going to do anything. I don't necessarily know what you're doing, but I
just
feel like you should
disturbing.
question it because it's disturbing as fuck. And it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
We already know, but that's a moral issue. That's not a legal one. So we could say, yeah, it's not appropriate for you to be taunting this mother while she's looking for her child.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like what we do know is criminal is the tagging. You're not allowed to do this in this part of the county.
Which means you have now probable cause to call to grab him and ask questions, because that's what this should have been about. Is you know,
What's driving me a little insane is that you already know that this tagger has a collection.
so how
you
many?
already know
Yeah,
who the fuck he is.
Thank you.
And if you don't know who the fuck he is, stop saying that you know that he has a collection.
Thank you.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe you're like, oh, it's the same tagger that's done similar other artwork. But you're already, what are you, a curator? You know he has a collection?
but isn't that creepy in itself?
also-
that some dude is just constantly doing murals of dead black women. Is that?
I mean, we all
That's
know
weird.
we all know what a Banksy looks like. We still know his
Yeah.
name's Banksy.
Yeah, we
Like-
sure do.
We don't know who he is
Yeah.
or she.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're acting like this guy is in the fucking MoMA.
Yeah. You could have easily been like, oh yeah, that's Frank
That's
Jones.
George.
That's Frank Jones. He's always doing this shit. But you know what? I still got to bring Frank Jones in, because there's no guarantee that Mitrice didn't walk past Frank Jones while he was doing another mural on some day in the middle of the night, because I don't see how they be doing these tags and nobody ever sees it. It's mad weird.
Right.
But in the middle of the night or whatever the fuck, if he ran into Mitrice, we need to make sure that we rule him out.
that he's not the person that killed her.
So
Or if
Kidnapped
he
her.
just has information.
that's it.
Yeah.
There's a link in everything. I mean, the police work is just crack whip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aren't all these? I'm sorry if an LA police officer is listening right now, do not be these dudes.
Don't.
Please.
Or county sheriff.
Please find justice.
Yeah. So
Please honor your shield.
honor your fucking shield. I mean, look, that's because the motherfucking police are a gang. They model their shit off of gang behavior, but then they want to be respected like they're officials and they're authority.
Stop not
figures.
snitching, but
Yeah.
then they don't snitch.
Then they don't snitch on each other. It's like it's gang shit. So you're a gang. Tupac used to say that shit. They're a fucking gang. They act and operate like a Blood and a Crip does.
Yep.
So because the LAPD and the LACSD, which is obviously the LA County Sheriff's Department, was mad useless, Latice had decided to contact Theo, who's the civil rights attorney, to file a lawsuit. So in Cali, you can't file a lawsuit to a municipality without filing a claim with the city and or the county that governs the entity. So you literally only have 6 months to do this, and you have to do it before you file the lawsuit. So Theo filed the claim. Lewis bitch ass had apparently been pushing for this until for some reason he decided to badmouth it on social media, saying that he was not looking for a payday. Theo had filed the claim on Latice and Lewis's behalf, but now Lewis is trying to basically flip the script. Theo had filed the claim, and then Lewis was like, who told you to file a claim on my behalf type shit. I got me a new attorney. So then Leo set up another press conference with the attorney that he hired, not the one that quote unquote Latice hired. It's going to get ghetto again. Lewis shouts at Theo, "You're an opportunist. I didn't retain you as my attorney." In which Theo replied, "You are a phony, sir."
You're a liar, a thief, and
you're a phony.
Theo and Lewis went back and forth, almost coming to blows. Lewis said, "You're an opportunist. My daughter is missing, and you haven't done a damn thing." Now, I disagree with the statement Lewis made because Theo was the only public figure who stepped in to help us, put pressure on the law enforcement, he brought like a certain dynamic to it that they were starting to actually see results from. So Latice is like, he's not against us. He's been working with us this entire fucking time. So they continue to argue. He said, "Let me be clear. He, Latice Sutton, and I have been working closely together." All of this arguing is happening at a press conference, by the way. Lewis said, ask him to show you an attorney-client privilege agreement, Theo said. "Go on his website with all the photographs of us together. I have all the letters he sent. So let me be very clear. This man and I and the mother of Mitrice Richardson have worked together for 3 months," Lewis said. As a civil rights activist, though, Theo said, what eventually happened is that we filed a claim for damages, which he rescinded his claim, stating that he didn't want to file a lawsuit. And guess what? He's here filing it again today. Draw your own conclusion. Lewis then says, "You're a crook, Theo." While Theo was like trying to speak, Lewis was continually shouting at Theo, show me my retainer. Show me my retainer. Theo said, "Go on the website and see for yourself. This guy right here is exploiting the situation, in my opinion. You are an embarrassment and you hate women." This is what Theo said.
Damn.
"You cuss at women. You degrade women. You hate women, Lewis." And then he goes on, he starts grabbing Theo. He said, "If I hate women, then I must love you," which I'm like,
what?
He didn't know what to say. He caught him. He was
confused as hell. Like,
"I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey." He didn't know what to say. I see that there.
Because low key, I was kind of like, I don't think I get that insult.
he's like,
I don't
right.
think
I must be gay. Come here.
Right.
Like,
and so then Theo tells him, he was like, "Don't touch me." He was like, you've described women in the vilest way. You refer to women as cunts and whores. Then Lewis says, "Yeah, prove it, Theo." And then Theo's like, "I have 3 women here who can prove it. You have called Miss Sutton the most derogatory words. You have described Miss Hanson, who is Rita, in the most derogatory terms. You're going to deny that? Let's take a polygraph test." And then Lewis said, "Yeah, let's take one. I retained you, punk." Theo.
This sounds like 2 8-year-olds arguing on the playground.
So here we go with the name calling. "Listen, take my name off your website. Why don't you tell these people what you call Latice Sutton?" And then Lewis said, "She's my baby mama." And then Theo said, "Tell them how you call Latice Sutton whore, bitch, and all other words. Are you denying that?" Lewis said, "Are you my attorney?" And then Theo says, not as of about a month ago. And then Lewis said, "Not as of 6 months ago. You were never my attorney." And then Theo says, "That's not true, sir. You don't know anything about the law, sir. Stop using the missing status of your daughter for your 15 minutes of fame." And then Lewis swung as if to hit Theo. And then Theo jumped back. And Theo said, "Go ahead, do something."
Do something, motherfucker.
Lewis said, you coward. Lewis began to walk away while laughing and heckling Theo. You coward. Officially, we now had 2 different attorneys in the same matter. That was officially what happened. Because for whatever fucking reason, he did not want this man to be the attorney, even though he was the one that was there from the very beginning.
Smashing?
Who?
No,
that was her friend. That was her boss. He wasn't an attorney. He worked at the Boys and Girls Club. He was the CEO.
The boss. Okay, I'm mixing people up. I'm like, didn't her?
No. He was the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay. I was like, okay, I could see why he'd be mad at the attorney because he wanted to get back with her, but okay, wrong person.
So while Lewis is bullying her, Lettice is being harassed by racists online. Her daughter, April, is being threatened by her softball league, which apparently was being ran by the same asshole, the LAPD commander, who's actually in charge of Mitrice's case. He was trying to kick her second daughter off the softball league.
So my sister's missing, and you're going to pick with me?
So... yeah. So she ends up getting him. She told him, like, motherfucker, this is a conflict of interest. You need to resign. She wrote a strongly worded letter because originally she had people on her side in town that had been helping her take care of her daughter, and they were taking her to practice and things like that. And one of the people were couples, that it was a couple and they were lawyers, and they told her, they were like, look, don't even worry about it. He's not going to kick her out. We're never going to let it happen. Because there were murmurings at the board meetings for the softball league.
Got it.
And he had been in charge. He was the board chairman. And so, she's kind of like, I know this motherfucker is on your case, and he's low key trying to get April kicked out of the softball league, but you ain't even got to worry about it because we're all prepared to sue. They were
behind her.
They were behind her.
I'm glad she had that support.
They were all prepared to sue.
That's good support.
Yeah. And so she was dealing with all of that at the same time. And she was dealing with the fact that the internet kept fucking saying that she was faking Mitrice's death so she could sue.
Okay.
So, and then some of the racist shit that people would say to her, well, it was just like flat out calling her all types of niggers and you're a fucking nigger and she's a nigger and she deserves to die. That type of shit. Like she was getting those, which
That's
I'm like,
so
who are these people who do this shit?
The people get on the bandwagon. They're like, oh, well, let's just
but how do you harass a parent of a missing child, or that like, my child's missing and like you want to like harass me and
have you listened to the whole thing that we've been talking about? Nobody fucking cares.
Nobody cares.
Right, nobody cares.
Nobody
it's just
cares.
But
so
I think
sad.
the difference is like it's one thing to not care to the point where you just ignore it. It's another thing to care enough to sit at a computer
to take
digs at a motherfucker.
I get not caring. Like, I mean, I think sometimes, as people, especially now, like, you get desensitized to things. There's cases I hear all the time. I'm like, oh, that's sad. Like, but I don't really, I'm not.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna go online and like, oh, you stupid, ugly motherfucker. No. That's why your daughter died. Like,
I mean,
what?
I mean, the racists that are out there, the fucking
they are.
the Nazi ass people that are out. They're like, let's just jump on the bandwagon. She's already down.
Troll.
Let's just
trolling, just full on trolling. So, Lewis is bullying her. He wants to be the star of the fucking show so bad. He writes again. He says, there's some gross negligence on the part of my daughter's mother. This is not publicity or fun. This is my kid. There is some fault on the part of the sheriffs, but her mother could have got off her ass. Which I'm like, you're a deadbeat, bro.
This is what I'm saying. I saw this in the beginning.
You're a deadbeat, bro.
He's the
like,
only one that even did anything.
He says her mother could have got her ass up and got her that night. Now, let me just say this. When I first heard this case, and I thought, my 24-year-old is drunk in Malibu. And I had a conversation with my mom. And I said, Mom, if it was me, would you have drove to Malibu in the middle of the night to go get me? Knowing that what you heard is going on at Geoffrey's. And you now know that I'm going to a sheriff's substation in Malibu. And my mom said, actually, I would have been on the phone while I was in the car.
Yeah.
I would not have waited until the next day. She said, because one, knowing you, I'm concerned about how we got in this situation. That's number one. Two, I'm like, it's middle of the night. I could probably get there in an hour if I floor it.
Yeah. Why wait till tomorrow when there's traffic?
And if you know what I mean? She was like, me, I would have felt compelled to handle it. I don't think I would have been able to sleep that night knowing.
So I might as well get up and go anyway.
So I might as well just get up and go. And I would have taken my daughter with me and it would have just been a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Versus like.
But then there's a difference with your mom and Latrice.
Sure.
Is that there's the part that like Latrice trusts the police and she wants to be a cop. Latisse, I mean, clearly liquor. Latisse trusts the cops.
Well, Mitrice, that's what you're getting confused.
Yeah, like, and so, you know, it's a difference. She's like, the mom is like, no, I trust the police. She's in a safe spot.
Yes.
Like, you know, she's already acting, you know, different because of this new friend. Like, you know.
Yeah. And that's what my mom said, because my mom was kind of like, the difference is that I would have never trusted them to begin with.
Yeah.
I would have never felt comfortable with you being there alone, knowing that she was like, knowing that you don't have any of your possessions and knowing that your car has been impounded. So
I have no children.
Sure.
No?
But
he's like,
none that
I know of.
If you're out there, I'm so sorry. I only have enough money for myself. Regardless of whether my child was guilty or not, I probably would have gotten up and said, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I should probably go down there and just figure this shit out.
Sure.
Yeah.
And knowing a little bit of the history of what you told us, she knew her daughter was hardworking.
Sure.
She knew that she hung out. She did artistic things. Regardless, out of context, she'd be like, my daughter wouldn't have gotten drunk at a restaurant in Malibu.
Yeah. Yeah.
That should have struck a chord and been like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Let me go down there.
I mean,
and
but
see.
even if my mom thought like my current self, like, oh, Brittany got fucked up in Malibu, she would probably be like,
Let me see
how many drinks she had? Because with a $90 bill, my mama know.
Like, she
I
didn't
probably
drink
ain't drink much.
Like,
but then, like, once you find out that she had one cocktail, and that,
but her mom didn't even know that in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's almost like
That's true.
She's like, okay, she finds out her daughter is in a holding cell somewhere that is not where she lives.
far from
where she lives.
I mean, if you are from Los Angeles and you know Malibu, Calabasas, Hidden Hills, that ain't where black people hang out.
No.
That's not where. And I do apologize. It's not where poor white people hang out.
Yeah.
Malibu.
Boo.
No. I don't even go there.
Yeah.
And I'm Hispanic, and I'm I don't do shit in Malibu. Like, I mean, I drive through Malibu. Shit, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty as fuck.
It's pretty as fuck. Yeah, but it's a pit stop. I don't.
You're like,
I don't hang out there. And you'd be like, that's a trigger to me as a person. Just know, if my friend was there, if Brittany was, or if I found out Brittany was there, I'd be like, no, fuck, we're gonna go get her.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna find out what's the situation, what happened.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh no, she was erratic, she was drunk. I'd be like, okay, well, do what you gotta do. I'm gonna wait here in the parking lot till she gets out.
Yeah.
But I mean, also too, the like, her mom was bipolar, and like bipolarism. Is it bipolarism? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
But like, it's genetic. I mean, at that point, did you not? I mean, if she's asking about these, she's acting erratic. You know, she had one drink. As a parent, I would think if I was bipolar, like, shit, is it presenting itself finally? Like, is it something like? You're right. I don't know if I would leave my child who's acting, but again, I don't trust the police, so I'd probably be like, oh shit, my daughter's in the police station and like she's erratic. Is a cop gonna touch her?
Sure.
Because I mean, let's be for real, people
because she can't
die
defend
in
herself.
the jail cells as well. So I mean,
Sandra Bland, who I probably should do a case on, but her situation
that was
her situation's kind of weird.
Out of context and out of everything, like and I'm making this personal, is if as a friend, if I found out that one of my female friends of color is by herself
in
a
Malibu
police station, in
anywhere,
the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere,
literally,
I would probably be like, nah, I gotta go.
And they impounded her car. See, her mom knew that her car had been impounded. Because to me, I'm like, now there's layers to this. Because even when I go get her, we still need to go to the
get her
impound
car in the
lot,
pound lot,
go
'cause-
get the car. Like and it's just, it's like, and I didn't know this woman's financial situation because I'm thinking in my head that I would have gone and at least been out there the following morning, so I wouldn't have to travel 3 hours. You know what I mean? To get there, whether it be I get a little quick hotel in Santa Monica so I'm closer, or get something in Malibu so I'm closer for an overnight stay, just so I can handle what I need to handle the following morning. Because she like asks questions. How much is her bond? She kind of makes it seem like, so I could be prepared to come get her in the morning. Look, I get it. It's 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock isn't really that late.
No.
To be first off. Second, if I got to drive to Santa Monica, I would rather drive there at 10 o'clock at night than to drive there the following morning. The traffic
me and
is
you
shit.
have lived in Los Angeles.
Yeah. The
After-
405 is doo-doo.
It's doo-doo.
So could it
until-
been-
but at night you can zip through, man.
Yeah. You can. It's like going to O'Hare in the middle of the night.
Makes sense.
It makes more sense to go to O'Hare at the middle of the
go
night
4 in the
because
morning and just get there.
it's a long distance technically, but you don't have to worry about nuts to butts traffic.
Yeah.
You can ultimately just get there. And so I was like, I really don't want to flip this, but I didn't want to agree with him.
I mean,
but
there
part
could
of
be
me
other-
was like, you should have went immediately.
Yeah, she should have. I mean, maybe she was also thinking like maybe the impound lot. In my head, like impound lots are open 24 hours. That's because we live in the city of Chicago. So like maybe the impound. She's like, well, we got to do all this stuff anyway. There's really no point in me going out here, like because maybe she can't afford a hotel.
Sure, yeah.
And like and so she's like, fuck, I got to bail her out.
But if it's okay for her to sleep in the lobby, I'm sleeping in the lobby.
Yeah,
I'm coming. And I'm going to make sure I do not trust the police. And I mentioned this to Dustin before. California police have a history of corruption.
Rodney
King, Rampart, the history of corruption. You have so many, the black cop relationship is already fucked up by 2009. Oh. So I don't give a fuck that you want to be a sheriff's deputy. I don't give a fuck. You should, just like Lewis is saying, because he's a gangster, he's probably thinking, I don't even see why you thought that she would be safe.
There's that part.
Because, I mean, if she was a boy, would you have gone out there? Probably fucking so.
There's that.
Because they would have fucked him up if he was acting crazy. He would have got beat up. The only reason why she didn't get beat up was because she was a girl and she seemed pretty subdued. She was just saying and doing weird shit. And she's cute. And you know what I mean?
And
there's
that part.
All of those things matter. But I just think that as a mom, like if that was your boy, if that was your son, would you have put the pedal to the metal to get there?
I mean, in black communities, that's typical though. Like, I mean, women or moms tend to be
cater to
their sons. And I mean, I think it's partially because they're trying to protect them because they, but I feel like you see that a lot where, black women run to their sons because I think they're more scared for them probably. Maybe that's what it is. But, and the girl's like, no, let her learn the hard way because like she needs to learn.
Sure.
The fuck does she need to learn?
I don't know. But I mean, I think that
I'm just saying, like, if she thought that, I mean, this is an educated girl.
Well, and this is what my mom said too. She's like, it made her wonder how much has Mitrice played around with done some foul shit before. I mean, because remember, Mitrice don't even live with her mama. That's number one.
And why?
And why?
Well, she don't like the husband anyway.
Yeah, she doesn't. That's true.
There's that.
But then I'm also thinking, I'm like, well, because my mom was like, well, if she said the way Mitrice responded to the sheriff about her staying in jail for the night made it seem like possibly Mitrice had gotten into some sort of trouble before. And maybe it didn't lead to her actually being at holding. But it was a moment where she was like, no, this bitch is acting up. She had been acting up.
She needs to go ahead and get in trouble now at this point. I mean, yeah.
I mean, all things are possible. And of course, obviously, I'm looking at a lot of things from Letice's perspective.
That's what I was gonna say too. Like,
she's not gonna want to run Mitrice's name in the mud because she so desperately want them to see the human in Mitrice to make her searchable.
Yeah,
she has to. It's kind of like
she made her
she has to make her a poster child And
To
she
make
has
her
to
important
make
as a
her
black woman.
important. And she has to lift her up. She's not supposed to add things to her character that's going to make them question why she would disappear in the first place. Because if she was a prostitute,
We wouldn't even be looking for her.
yeah, because you know what Mitrice also was? A go-go dancer at a strip club. She could have easily put that in that missing poster that I read for you all earlier. She didn't. Why? Because to our society,
Well,
that adds to the possibility that she was living a little bit of a fringe lifestyle that could have ultimately got her in trouble. Now the question is, well, does she do drugs? Does she do psychedelic drugs? Like,
what is she doing?
What is she
Who
doing?
is she entertaining? What kind of crowd?
what
is she
I
hanging out
also
with
thought
them?
was interesting, and nobody said, you found 5 to 6 pill bottles in this bitch's car, but you ain't say what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
I got
why-
2
and-
pill
and
bottles
why
on
were
my sink right now, and it's for allergies.
Yeah.
And why were the quote unquote girlfriends not questioned? Where were they? What was that about?
So she,
You know
the
what I mean?
Anna girl. So there was one girl. Mitrice had the 3 women before. These were like women that she had fucked with when she had first started to be, play around with lesbian relationships. There was one that had money that she fucked with basically because she liked her and she had money. And then it's like they all serve their purpose.
Yeah.
Letice did contact the one with money. The one with money actually was like, I'm on my way. That's the way she was, because she had the flexibility, because I think she lived in Northern California, maybe San Francisco, or, an area like maybe Oakland. That's why she mentioned Oakland.
Maybe that's the reference.
Yeah. And so,
Oh, that could be it.
I
thought I was an Oakland girl because she was going to go live with.
Exactly. And I didn't dig into the girlfriends too much because when she referenced them, they're pseudonyms. I don't know their real names.
Right.
But
That's
there
another thing
is
we have
one
to keep aware of too, that like this book, is written from her mom's perspective. So she's gonna make her seem like she's an amazing parent and raise this perfect child.
But she also wants to put her daughter in a good light.
In a good
Yeah.
light,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, my mother's never gonna be like, oh yeah, he was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and be like, well,
Yeah.
maybe you should have told us that in the beginning because
If it get down with
really
get down, then we probably because if it makes this, if it looks like she lives a high risk lifestyle, let's say for example they automatically assume she's on drugs or she engages in prostitution. Then they will easily be like, well, she probably hitchhiked
somewhere. Yeah.
She hitchhiked somewhere, fucked somebody maybe, and then he killed her. Possibly.
Yeah.
They, you know what I mean? They start to, assume. When you're looking for your child, you don't want anybody to assume.
Yeah, you don't know those assumptions.
So, all right.
Is there more?
Hell yeah.
Okay. I wasn't.
Oh
sure,
no,
like, if
we
were just gonna
oh
talk
no,
about
because
it
we
now.
ain't even talked about finding her.
Oh, there's a finding of her.
Yeah, I got 10 pages left.
Oh shit.
I'm gonna blast through it. Because
blast
notice,
it, 'cause I
okay,
was like, why is
so
nobody
notice
else
I'm
getting
doing
involved?
no, I'm doing a lot of quotes because I also want you to hear it from the actual people.
Yeah.
Because she quotes so many people in her book, and then like seeing the news, like reading the news and all that other shit, they kind of sync.
You're
so
such
that's
a good character builder. I'm telling you this right now.
well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Because I need to
Great
know
storytelling.
I want you to see all of it. I want you to feel all of it. So, because Lewis, I hate to beat him to death, but he drives me nuts.
He's an
He
ass.
seems,
He deserves
as
it.
we said before, he seems to be a bit of a dickhole.
Yeah. And so he goes, there's some gross negligence on the part of my daughter's mother. This is not publicity or fun. This is my kid. There is some fault on the part of the sheriffs, but her mother could have got up off her ass and got her that night. If you start blaming people, then you have to claim some accountability also. This is my damn daughter. Rita is the person who gives Letice drugs, which I'm like, the fuck?
So maybe she was prescribing.
This is Letice. That's the mom, not Mitrice. You mean maybe she was her psychiatrist?
Maybe she was on the side. She was actually prescribing her drugs.
I
and
do
not
think
telling
that
her mom.
I do think that
I don't trust
there's-
this though because it's Lewis.
But I mean, I do think the fact that
Gotcha.
if she wasn't her legal psychiatrist or psychologist, then she would have been able to share what other conversations what she was having with her mom. But she kept saying she couldn't because of client patient privilege. So she had to
I don't think she was saying like specifically client patient. I think she just tapped in. She's a psychologist. She just don't feel like it's appropriate.
Right.
Okay,
You know,
I
I don't
that.
think she felt like she can bend. This is what she told me in confidence. Yeah, that I'm not technically, but
it's still,
you know,
an
it's
oath
kind
I
of like
took.
being a doctor and having to
Like
uphold the
yeah.
Hippocratic oath.
Like somebody starts
you don't
dying on
pick
a
and
plane, you kind of got to be like, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
Like,
she was also her daughter's mentor, and
Yeah.
she probably felt like, no, this is confidential.
This is technically a working relationship.
But on the flip side, like, she's missing. So it doesn't, like, I mean, maybe I watch too much Law and Order, which
Yeah.
they're like, no, like, they're missing. Like,
Yeah.
fucking tell the story.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Like,
and
don't-
she did tell the story. She just didn't tell it to Letice.
Yeah, to Letice, yeah.
She told it to the
the cops,
detectives.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, he says Letice Sutton, you know, she gives Letice Sutton drugs and sued Letice's alcoholic and drug addicted husband. Wow. It appears Letice's mother is an alcoholic. Her grandfather blew his brains out, and now her daughter's missing. Letice, also known in South Central as TC, trying to be all proper because of who she really is, but maybe her daughter left like everyone else. She's a nutcase. She was so sick of this shit. Like, Letice was so sick of this shit, but she was handling it very well. Here's a quote from Letice. He is spewing his viciousness, saying that Rita prescribes me drugs and soothes my alcoholic, drug-addicted husband. Then he brings my mother and grandfather into his maliciousness, stating my mother is an alcoholic and my grandfather blew his brains out, which, by the way, he did not blow his brains out. He ends with saying Mitrice left me because I'm crazy. I feel homicidal right now. I am fighting the urge to post that his mother lived on the streets and is likely a schizophrenic, and that his father is a deadbeat dad claiming Social Security, all while leeching onto women to take care of his weak ass.
I love that she says. I love that she says, I'm holding back on saying,
and then says it all.
She still says it, and I'm like,
Shit.
she'd be like, I'm not gonna tell you, but
bro.
I mean, Lewis is such an ass. She's like, my grandfather did not blow his brains out. However, fat ass knows that my grandfather's suicide was one of the greatest traumas in my life before my baby went missing. I believe Lewis is trying to psychologically break me, and I cannot allow that to happen. I remember Lewis saying to me during the first days of Mitrice's disappearance regarding Anna, the girlfriend, who would say discouraging things to Mitrice to make her feel bad about herself. So there was some beef. If, quote, if she can psychologically break Mitrice down, then she can gain control over her. That's what that's what Lewis said to Letice about Mitrice, because Mitrice had apparently shared her relationship with him, with Anna. And then she said, that's what he's doing to me. Now, on August 10th, 2010, Letice gets a call from the media asking if she's heard about the body found in Montanito or Cito, one of the Montes. Monty Python.
I was like,
She had
Montecito or Montepoquito.
She had no idea what was going on. That's strike 8. She and her boss, Anthony, hightailed it to Montecito. This area is referred to as Dark Canyon. Where's Dark Canyon? Let's find that out, because I'm drunk now. I don't even know anything anymore. She's freaking out and asking questions, but of course, no one wants to share anything. Another woman was there wondering if the body was her husband, who had gone missing a year prior. Letice was stuck. She was around. She was just waiting for information. Nobody would tell her anything because they claimed the body wasn't going to be moved until the morning. Then she saw a basket gurney being lifted out of the air, out of the canyon, and fly away. That's strike 9. Why'd you lie?
like,
You
what
wanted
is wrong with these people?
She showed up to a search where you motherfuckers didn't tell her that there was a body. You didn't tell her they found a body in Dark Canyon. Then when she shows up, what you do is you tell her, in order to get her to leave, that you're not going to pull the body out until the fucking morning.
and then
Then they pull the body out.
all out. Just
And she's just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? So then the deputy told her, quote, we removed the body because it would be unsafe for deputies to secure the scene overnight, and wild animals may disturb the scene. Bitch, what?
wait. Time out. How long has she been missing at this point?
She's been missing for 11 months.
Yeah. So, whatever animals. Well, I mean, I guess.
No,
I guess she didn't
they're
have to
not
be
worried
there.
about the remains. They're worried about their search team being there overnight and encountering animals. That's what they're worried about.
Wow.
Which is like, you have a gun. So even if you motherfucking, come in contact with a goddamn mountain lion, shoot that motherfucker. He gonna run away. You got a gun. So
California rescue is pretty. I'm sure
they're
used
trained
to
to. They're
Sure they're
trained
used
to
to that.
deal with live.
Well, it wouldn't be rescue now. It'd be recovery.
it'd
but
be recovery.
wait, where was it? You said what? Dark Canyon, Black
Dark
Canyon?
Canyon.
Dark Canyon, California.
No, it's a canyon. It's not like a city.
But did you say where it was? You said something.
I said Montanito. It's either Montanito or Montecito. So they couldn't tell her the gender or anything. Then the coroner shows up. The coroner's fucking pissed because he's like, the sheriff's moved the body.
I'm like, wait, time out. I just assumed they moved the body after the coroner had already done his thing.
She assumed it too.
Like, what the fuck?
The sheriff's moved the body before the coroners arrived? This was a direct violation of the protocol. The coroner's office has jurisdiction when a body is found. They're supposed to secure the scene
And wait.
and wait until the coroner arrives, and they're supposed to maintain as much of the evidence as they can. But the sheriff's department removed the body. The next day, Mitrice gets a call from a reporter saying that the remains that were discovered were female. That's
That's great. Like, I'm learning from the media.
She learned at this point, almost everything she's learned has been from the media. Mitrice is freaking the fuck out. August 12th, 2010, Mitrice got the call that the remains were Mitrice's.
Bullshit.
Now that it's confirmed, an autopsy has to be performed. The autopsy is fucking weird. The preliminary report is strange. They mention Mitrice's hair being 1 to 4 inches from the scalp to the crown. Mitrice said that Mitrice's hair was at least 14 inches in length. Then there was a bundle of hair found that was not attached to her scalp. Mitrice said that Mitrice was not wearing a weave.
That was her natural hair.
Her natural hair.
14 inches.
Where did the hair come from? They couldn't find the cause of death because her body was so badly decomposed that they couldn't test her organs or her tissue. The cause of death was ruled as undetermined.
You are correct. Monte Nido.
Okay, Nido. Now, Lewis didn't help with any of the costs, but he bitched and complained about not having a say-so and shit. And this dude gets on my motherfucking nerves. She would have to use the money saved for her college, her grad school, to pay for the funeral.
Oh.
He would even order all the people that came with him to get up and leave the funeral in the middle of the service.
What?
What in the actual fuck?
I'm just as mad at the people that he ordered to leave for leaving because
But
I couldn't have. I mean,
but to me, what it reminds me of, you remember the movie Meteor Man?
yes,
The Golden Lords?
Uh-huh.
And he was like ordering them and
Yeah.
shit. It reminds me of that because eventually he came back and so did they. So you just disrupted the shit and didn't make
just
no
a
impact.
dick.
He's just useless. So he even had the nerve to drop his Hoover Crip orange bandana into her coffin, which Mitrice would later have removed when the body was exhumed. Because she was like, the
why is it
fuck?
orange?
I know.
Okay, I'm like,
So why? So while you're out while you're out promoting the reunion of TC and Darnell, because she ends up getting back with her husband, you may want to recall emails you sent to me written by Mitrice on September 17, 2009. My favorite is number 9, that I never liked Darnell and he was never my dad. And you can't make a kid call someone other than their dad. It's betrayal. My second favorite was that she sent me directly, "Hey, Papo, I just wanted to say thanks for being a good example. I know you weren't always around because mom is weird, but I know you're a great dad. I said I don't want you to read the request she wanted me to do, the request of what she wanted me to do to Darnell after he got high and hurt April, but maybe the media will. So can we be nice?" This is what he says to her.
But
now,
you know,
first of all, turns out that term Papo that she called him is what Darnell calls what they call Darnell. So
that's weird. I was just
Mitrice is fucking crazy. She's of course is weird.
Like, all right.
But he's using it as fuel to piss off Latisse, and it makes him an asshole. And Latisse's reaction, I love it. I don't give a fuck what you do. Fuck off. That was her response. She's like, I'm done. Like, we're done. So Latisse is stricken with grief. She had to find out what happened to Mitrice. She was fighting with the LAPD, the LACSD, and the internet. She had so many feelings about all of this, but knowing her daughter's case would likely remain unsolved made her fucking crazy. So what she hated the most was that her daughter died alone with no family and friends around. She felt super uncomfortable about the mural. That was still an issue.
That's creepy.
A forensic psychologist, an expert witness in the Orange County Superior Court, would reach out to Latisse on August 15th, telling her that the mural was likely a depiction of Mitrice, and it's long, but I gotta read it.
Okay, settle.
So say it. You ready?
Settle in.
Okay.
Settle in.
No, yeah.
The mural. A kind of sick trophy was drawn as a seductive braggadocio and was deliberately intended to be found. Not immediately seen, somewhat hidden, but then discovered. Discovery would only add to its horror, and that was the intention of the creator or creators. Shock and horror. A continuation of the shock and horror inflicted on the victim, but now inflicted on the family and concerned others. That is, torture, not ending with the death of the victim. Further, painting a mural provides its creators the experience of reliving the crime in gruesome detail, in much the same way as child molesters are known to mentally relive their assaults on their victims, to mentally replay over and over again that from which they derived pathological pleasure, or the way sexual sadists take souvenirs from their victims so as to experience long after the death of their victims repetitive pleasure from their crimes. In that Mitrice Richardson's remains were located within a few miles and therefore within walking proximity of this mural, and likely painted within hours of a well-publicized search to be held in that very area. It is likely that the mural is connected to Richardson. This mural was intended by its creators, who are one and the same as her captors, torturers, and eventual killers, to communicate to the world the story of Mitrice Richardson. The perpetrators were well aware of the high-profile nature of this case. They no doubt saw reports by police, press conferences, and efforts by search teams to find Richardson. Just as an inmate brags to his or her cellmate about his or her involvement in a high-profile case, these perpetrators wanted the world to know we did it. And this is what we did. The entrance to the culvert area in which the mural is located is marked by a prominent arrow, a directional sign, beckoning, inviting the soon-to-be horrified discoverer to come in. Come see. And while the perpetrators may have later learned her name from news sources, or may even knew her name at the time of the crime, to the perpetrators, Richardson was called simply the Afro. This is a depersonalization. Depersonalizing the victim, we know, serves as a defense by the perpetrator to deny the humanity of the victim, and hence to make the crime easier psychologically to commit. And as one might begin writing a story inviting the reader to join the author in the land of Oz, Neverland, you fill in the blank, the arrow beckons the discoverer to the land of the Afro. Again, signifying that the discoverer is about to be told a story. The story of the Afro, Mitrice Richardson. The mural taken in its entirety is symbolic as the killer's calling card. Moreover, the various elements detailed within the mural are likewise symbolic and represent events occurring during Richardson's captivity, as well as the stages of her demise. The symbolism aspect is the important feature of the mural, for the mural is intended not to be a concrete replication of the events taken from left to right in precise sequential order, but is more likely intended to be a stylized and pathologically poetic representation of the last days or hours of one woman's life. That that is it not drawn precisely sequentially is important to the interpretation of the mural. The drawings of the African American woman in the mural bear, in my opinion, a resemblance of Richardson, insofar as body type. Other features are learned. Some of the drawings depict an African American female, young, meaning clearly a woman in her prime, tall, slender, but rather muscular and well-developed, initially during captivity, medium brown skin tone, full lips, eyebrows, an afro-style dark hair similar to that of Richardson's dark, full, curly hair, as shown to her in her booking photo. That the drawings bear resemblance to Richardson, that the mural was located within walking distance of the location where Richardson's remains were found, that the paint was still wet within hours of the well-publicized search, taken together suggests that the mural is related to Richardson. The most parsimonious, what the fuck is that word?
I was like,
parsimonious. I should look that up. I'm like, I must have just skipped it. I was like, nah, I'm going to use context clues.
Unwilling to spend money or use resources.
Got it. The parsimonious explanation for the mural's existence is probably the correct one. To believe otherwise would be to believe that these are mere coincidences, a belief which, in my opinion, defies logic. The overall theme of the mural is sexual and sadistic. Its title, Enter the Afro, not only invites the discoverer to enter, to come close, to look, but in so doing, the discoverer at once becomes a participant. This is another gruesome aspect of the mural, that there is virtually no choice for the discoverer. The mural is big, bold, inescapable because the discoverer is compelled to look again and again by the virtue of its blatant vulgarity. Discoverer becomes an unwilling participant in the story. Bluntly, the discoverer becomes an accomplice in this woman's rape, torture, and death. The revulsion then felt by the discoverer is not a coincidental feature of the mural. It is a sadistic continuation of the torture, making the discoverer his next victim. Soon after, but only within an hour or so, of leaving the Montanito area, Richardson coincidentally came upon two or more persons hereafter identified as the perpetrators or perps. Perps were either on foot or driving, but in either case had a vehicle nearby. Perps were previously unknown to Richardson, but were roughly Richardson's age, seemed nice or normal, were friendly and polite, and offered Richardson assistance. They offer food, water, and or a ride back to the main highway, or to her car, or even a ride home. And Richardson, hot, tired, hungry, thirsty, either went with the perps voluntarily or was taken unwillingly. Another possible scenario was that Richardson was found by perps sleeping and possibly experiencing the initial symptoms of dehydration, thereby rendering her weak, lethargic, confused, and especially vulnerable. Richardson was promptly drugged with a stimulant type substance, possibly meth and or ecstasy, likely both. And it is unlikely that Richardson willing to take these drugs, even or period. Reportedly, marijuana and or other pills were found in her car. Richardson's goal at that point in the early morning was to get home, not to party. The crime did not occur at the site of the mural or where her remains were located. A drugged Richardson was taken to another location, another protected site, well known to the perps, where they had spent hours before and where they could be alone with Richardson, unseen and unheard, undetected for many hours or even for a few days. This could have been a residence, but more likely that was an abandoned or foreclosed home, an empty industrial building, or even a wilderness area. Unwillingly or unknowingly under the influence of drugs, a beautiful and vibrant Richardson was stripped, repeatedly raped by all perps, also under the influence of drugs and likely alcohol, and was sexual entertainment for the perps for many hours. Gradually, the sex games became less sexual frivolity and more frank perversion. Richardson was still drugged, is hung upside down, and more sexual acts, now ugly, were inflicted on her. Even in the drug state, she demanded that it stop. Perps now hold Richardson captive by tying her up. She is no longer beautiful. Skin tone has faded, face somewhat distorted. Richardson is becoming less of a person. The process of depersonalization is beginning. Sexual activity has become forced and increasingly brutal. Richardson is forced to perform fellatio, engage in anal intercourse, and or other sex acts with the perps. Breasts are no longer attractive, but are caricaturized. Richardson is forced to dance and to provide other revolting entertainment. An angry Richardson continues to be abused. Skin tone and hair has faded. Face and sexual features are primitive. Depersonalization continues. Richard is continuing to be drugged. Perps' actions are no longer sexual in nature, but have become violent and sadistic. Sexual sadism now motivates their actions. Perps may have been coming down from the drugs at this point. And Richardson is repeatedly penetrated by foreign objects that were likely sharp and very large. Richardson's body is hurting. She is angry, unwilling. Drugs are having an adverse effect on her morality by now. Skin is gray. Hair faded to blue. Richardson is not doing well. It is clear to the perps that she is dying. Sexual torture continues. Groin is cut. Breasts are mutilated. And perps realize Richards is dying. Skin tone has faded and is outlined in blue. Facial features have a vacant appearance. And perps decide to move her. By now, Richards can't walk and is likely very confused, disoriented, incoherent. Richardson is near death. Perps witness the last throes of Richardson's life. This is the transitional figure. Richardson ultimately dies of a drug overdose. Perps decide to take her body to the old pot farm, an area well known to perps, hidden, remote, and with death potentially blamed on immigrant Mexican pot farmers. Richardson's body is carried and placed in the pot farm ravine. As a sadistic act of defilement, Richardson is branded with the letters LA on her buttocks. Perps are well aware now that Richardson's identity and circumstances, college graduate, A student, nice family, etc., have seen her distraught family pleading for information, aware of the notoriety of the case. And in June 2010, perps decide to gather their paint supplies and return to the covert area to tell their story. And perps want their peeps to know what happened to Richardson, and they are the ones who did this. This gives them notoriety, street cred, and the sick satisfaction of continuing the rape and torture. The mural would be the signature, their trophy, and their press release to the world.
I'm speechless, which is hard for me.
I don't know what to say. All I can say though is anybody that's from California or that knows that area, that is all possible because it's the Santa Monica Mountains. And where she was found was on the way. That's like the middle between Malibu, the coast, and going up to Hidden Hills. You know, it's that Montecito place is on its way. And I do remember now, it's a small community. You can take not Laurel Canyon, but you can take Malibu Canyon and go up. It meets Mulholland, Calabasas, Hidden Hills. But what's crazy is where she was found. Somebody had to have picked her up.
Yeah, there's
no way you walk.
And I'm gonna get to that. Hold on now, before you.
Okay,
because
everything you were saying, I'm like, obviously they were in a car.
Yeah.
There's no
now,
way was
here are the additional aspects that this woman says. She said it's likely but not certain that the perps are non-Hispanic Caucasians. These are not East LA gang members, nor are they members of a known black gang, such as the Bloods, the Crips, etc., which is also why identifying the graffiti will be challenging. Perps are young, meaning teens, 20s, and likely males, although females may have been there to observe or participate and are even possibly involved in some way. or have a knowledge of the events and the identities. The perps are intelligent. They have computer fluency, but are not necessarily educated. They are likely the type who are on the fringes in high school, not the same extent as the Columbine killers, but are also still considered weirdos by their peers, not involved in school activities, sports clubs, etc., but are also not loners. They have their own weird group where they may be high school dropouts that whatever, and probably are not current college students, maybe classes at JC, and are likely unemployed. Perps are likely middle to upper middle class and are likely from the area, not necessarily from Malibu, but close, potentially West San Fernando Valley,
The West Hills.
yeah, Thousand Oaks, Agora, etc. One perp inserted himself into the mural. He has red hair, either dyed or natural, has a nose ring in his right nostril, and is Caucasian. The figure / perp with red hair is also the same one who signed or made the graffiti marking on the pole that is in red paint. And if you discover the identity of the red graffiti, you will discover the identity of the man in the mural, and hence one of the killers.
So did Mitrice have a like the LA engraved on her ass in real life?
No.
Oh, was it okay?
She had tattoos, but that was never mentioned.
Did they like mark her after they killed her, and then
we'll get to that because we'll get to that.
But I did say earlier, I'm like, the guy that was in there had to have. They like to put themselves.
Yeah,
in there.
exactly. And out of all the images of these black women on this mural, there's only one of
redheaded,
a white person. She said, I also have reason to believe that the perp posted a message on the Find Mitrice website yesterday. This is a profiler. Profilers are wild. She says this: perps are very familiar with the area. In fact, have familiarity in exquisite detail, from virtually living in that secluded area, smoking dope, hanging out, having sex, doing strange shit out of view. Because of the inordinate amount of time they spend in the area, it is possible that one or more deputies from or someone connected with the Hidden Hills station know who they are. That is, know who painted the mural, know their families, or are neighbors, or could even be related, e.g., uncle, brother, etc. I feel confident that people in the area, especially young people, have seen them and or know who they are. Perps likely took Richardson to another location for sex and torture, where she was held for many hours, and she probably died there or close by, meaning it is unlikely that she died in the Pot Farm ravine. Perps took souvenirs, probably cut hair, recall the fro comb, because apparently there was a fro comb in the mural, clothing, etc., and likely took cell phone pictures and or video pictures and still have them today. It is unlikely that this crime was racially motivated. Despite the ugly racial references on the mural, the same fate would have occurred to any young woman of any race who was unlucky enough to have encountered the perps that morning. Had the victim been white, the racial slurs on the mural would have been white hoe or hunky hoe. The racial insults on the mural were intended for Richardson's family as a further act of torment. DNA will not help identify the perps. They likely have not been arrested for any felony offense. If they have been arrested, it has been solely for minor misdemeanor charges like DUI, marijuana possession, etc. Once the perps are identified and picked up as persons of interest, then of course DNA could put them at the scene of the mural, at least. That is if the mural was combed for DNA and other evidence and the evidence preserved. The main perp is very taken with himself and is in his revolting handiwork. He is one of the psychopath killers who thinks he is outsmarting law enforcement. He is playing a cat and mouse game with the Richardson family, but especially with law enforcement. He is leaving symbolic clues in much the same way as the Zodiac Killer or BTK. Again, it is important that the perp important to the perp that he derives continued sadistic pleasure from Richardson via tormenting her family and loved ones. The killer is watching. The mural is not coincidental. It was the killer or killers' first big announcement. He was well aware of the planned search for Mitrice over the weekend of June 6, 2010. That search was well publicized on TV and elsewhere, including the dates and the locations of the search. The perp went to the area in the early morning hours and painted the mural. The perp had to have lived close enough to the area to be able to get into the area, carry the paint, the supplies, paint the mural, then get out before daybreak. The content of the mural was planned. The style, the colors, the symbolism, all planned. Probably sketched in advance and painted in about 2 hours or less. For the express purpose of leaving his calling card, a further degradation of the victim and her family, and of saying to the world, this is what I did. He wanted publicity, notoriety, but nothing happened. So, she was, and mind you, I cut pieces out.
That's a lot.
Because she, first off, started off with who she was. So she wanted to solidify her position. And she's like, you can look me up here. Here's my registration code. This is what I do for a living. I am, I'm a character. She's a profiler or whatever. Yeah. She basically, gets on the stand. She works for the county.
Oh, for the county. She wasn't like FBI or anything.
No,
like
she's a witness. She's always an expert witness for Orange County, and she helps them identify these psychological. So for her to send this to this girl's mother, saying, I have looked at this mural, and this mural is
definitely
telling. That's not a coincidence.
Now, remind me, where was the mural found?
So the mural, there was, how you all have those like drainage holes.
Yeah, but where?
It was right next to. It was not too far from Dark Canyon. I don't know the exact location because it was off the beaten path.
Well, you said Dark Canyon was basically Montanito.
Yeah. So yeah.
Montanito is a little bit south. It's south of Hidden Hills. It's so if I tell you, here's the coastline.
Pacific
Viewers, you cannot see
PCH.
this.
Oh, I'm like watching your leg.
I'm explaining this to the two people in the room.
Yeah.
Coastline. Malibu is on the ocean.
Sure.
You can go up Montanito, up, and then west is over here is Topanga. But if you go up, it is Calabasas, then Hidden Hills.
Okay.
There's no fucking way she walked.
She didn't. She did it.
There's no fucking way. Like it's like what's the example here in Illinois? Well, you don't have a lot of mountains in the city, but it's like you walking from Winnetka. And I say north.
Yeah.
That's far. Like
down to
Hyde Park. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
it's that far.
That's far.
But in the mountains.
Yeah, that's wild.
In the mountains.
And
in
that's
the Santa Monica Mountains. That's not. And obviously, she was. I mean, I'm just saying now with all this other information. Yes.
Yeah.
A gang of people, a couple people. I don't know. It seemed like there was more. Obviously.
Oh, for sure. And law enforcement didn't really believe it. And I think the part that the profiler was possibly accurate about was the fact that they knew who it was.
Yep.
So Latisse would have Mitrice looked at by a forensic anthropologist because she was like, they kind of fucked up the preliminary autopsy. So the anthropologist noticed that Mitrice had pink discoloration on her teeth, which is apparently an indication of asphyxia. I had never heard that before.
Pink teeth?
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
It's an indication of asphyxia, but they couldn't determine if that was the case because her hyoid bone is missing.
Explain to me what the hyoid is.
Hyoid bone is that bone right here. Right here,
under the throat.
This is the bone that they need to know when you've been strangled. When that bone is collapsed, but hers is missing, even though all of her other neck bones are present.
did they cut it out, or they went too deep?
But-
who did the autopsy? Like, was this all like
Well, there was a preliminary autopsy, and this is the second autopsy that's done by a party that Mitrice hired, and they said that
like the first one, like, so was this like all a
LA.
Was it a kind of conspiracy where the redheaded kid was related to some deputy in the area, and then the person that did the preliminary autopsy is now is it a whole cover up?
Sure, possibly.
We're covering up.
Where
this
would the preliminary autopsy have been?
At the
done?
coroner's office
in Hidden Hills, or
that's
in
what
LA?
I would assume.
I think it would have been L.A. County. So when she's airlifted, she was likely brought to the L.A. coroner's office. Because they ultimately, I mean, but the thing is, their caseload is ridiculous.
But no, wouldn't it go to the jurisdiction of whatever? Doesn't every county have their own? I mean, doesn't like every little area have their own?
Yeah,
but because I think because, but I still think
Minds.
out of the fact because she's technically LAPD, this is their case, so they would have taken her to their coroner.
Because you'd think it would be somewhere in the valley that's like there, San Bernardino?
Sure.
San Bernardino Valley.
But again, yeah.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
So it's hella sus. So then...
Yeah, that's all a lot of cover up.
So cause of death was ruled undetermined, but the manner of death is considered suspicious. So what was also suspicious was the fact that Mitrice's clothes were never tested. Her clothes were left in the body bag. So when the forensic pathologist that Mitrice had hired saw the remains, none of her remains were cleaned. She was stuffed in the bag with dirt, leaves, twigs, and her clothes, which were not on her. She was completely nude. She was discovered naked, by the way. The clothes were intact, minus the environmental change from certain items, like her belt had rust on them and things like that. According to Mitrice's clothes that were found were totally intact. They were so intact that if they were washed, they could have been worn again.
So they made her strip probably and put their clothes off, and then...
So she even still had jewelry in her hair. Strangely, she was slightly mummified. Her left arm was mummified in a flexed position. So this whole excuse that they were given at first was that her arm was like this when they found her body. Like she was about to do a karate chop. If you all can't see what I'm doing, but it's like I'm lifting my arm up along my body like I'm about to judo chop somebody.
A lot of examples.
That's her. Yeah, that's how her arm was flexed, and it was stuck this way. Now, originally, their thing was that animals could have taken off her clothes. What? And she was like, animals can't take off. First of all, there's no indication.
They unbuttoned her clothes.
So let me tell you what Mitrice was wearing. She was wearing jeans, a long sleeve shirt with a short sleeve shirt on top of it. So she had on two shirts.
Layers.
She had on Vans and she had on a belt. And so you'll see it if you look at the security footage, but she had that's what she had on. All of that's there intact. You don't see any animal bites. You don't see any ripping. Her mom just said all her clothes are intact. Like you can wash them and wear them again. If her arm is in this flex position, then how could her clothes have been removed by an animal?
Yeah, they would have. That's very intricate.
Well, and her arms would have been removed. I mean, her clothes would have been removed before her arm was probably stuck like
Absolutely.
that. Because,
Absolutely. And two, even if you say, because originally I thought, well, maybe she wandered off and ended up in this area. Like she just, because sometimes animals drag, to the area
but not
too.
With the clothes being that intact.
But how did her clothes get off? Then my mom was like, well, that sometimes people, when they endure hypothermia, they start to take their clothes off. Because, if you start to get tired, you start to get delusional, you're really cold. There's this phenomenon where your body kind of reacts to the fact that you're so freezing cold that it overheats the body and people strip their clothes off.
That makes sense.
And so then my mom was like, your body is there to protect you.
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, I wonder if that was the case. But then the more I talked to him with my mom was like, but I low key think somebody killed her and dropped her off there because apparently pot farmers are super prominent in that area. And the reason why is because the vegetation is so high. So her mom's thing was this. She was like,
the victim's mom.
Yeah, Mitrice's mom was like, look, if her body was mummified, it would have either had to be extremely cold, extremely dry, or there had to be no oxygen whatsoever to speed up decomp. So the fact that like she's there and part of her body is intact led Mitrice to believe that she was at some point contained in a box of some sort.
And then dumped.
Like
dumped out. So she was already in a mummified situation.
And there had been no animal activity on her body other than her phalanges. So animals had nibbled at her fingers and things like that. But even then, like, these animals are not really like dragging her. Like, you know, usually you're at a pretty real moment of decomp when animals start dragging pieces of your body away.
If these are a bunch of pop farms, that means that there's people like activity
all the time,
in the area, which would have run like super dangerous animals kind of away
which
from
is
that.
Ultimately how her body was found, because they were doing her, you know what I mean, they were doing those runs where they see who out here selling, who growing weed.
Let's go burn the weed up.
And then they ended up finding her body out there. Now, Mitrice will return to the site where Mitrice was found, and she really could not figure out how Mitrice managed to get into Dark Canyon on her own in Vans, a t-shirt, and jeans. It took her hours to hike it, and they were so tired by the time they got into the canyon that they asked to be airlifted out.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying.
When she was there, when they were there, because they had posted pictures of her, and like they were like, there's actual video of this too, where they was like playing gospel music and praying and things like that, and she was just like mourning her there. They found her finger bone. So they fucked this up on purpose because you didn't secure the scene at all. If I come back however many days later and there's still body parts at the scene, y'all didn't comb the scene at all for anything. So apparently this was also fucked shit up. When the police gave out the coordinates to the coroner, they gave them the wrong coordinates.
Okay.
And they got lost.
Okay.
That's why the coroner was late. He got the wrong coordinates.
Again, do they do that on purpose?
Sure.
Cover up.
Sure. So
just
Lewis,
throw them off. You'd be like, oh, well, I'm showing up at so-and-so.
I'm at 302 longitude, 500 degrees
or just maybe
latitude.
hoped that they would go to the wrong place, look around, and be
sure.
like, I didn't find anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't find anything.
So Lewis would go on to start a campaign called A Bone to Pick. Distasteful as fuck,
Lewis.
to say the very goddamn least. He requested that all his supporters send chicken bones and rib bones and shit to the sheriff's department. So this is okay. I'm done with this dude. So this is Mitrice's theory. She said, I believe many deputies at the station believe they are above the law and they behave accordingly. I believe when Mitrice was released at 12:25 a.m. on September 17, 2009, walking into pitch blackness, I believe Mitrice stopped a deputy and asked for a ride back to her car. The reason I believe this is because right after Mitrice was escorted out of the east door of the precinct that led to the parking area of the deputies, a deputy was seen leaving the premises right after being escorted out. And Mitrice respected law enforcement and would have felt safer asking for help from law enforcement than a regular stranger. Further, because I always have a keen sense of awareness of predators and their behaviors, that suspicion and caution was taught and passed on to Mitrice. So while Mitrice may not have cared for law enforcement, she would have felt safer asking for a ride from them rather than a stranger. I believe a corrupt deputy granted Mitrice's request to be driven back to her car. And once Mitrice was in the vehicle, I believe the corrupt deputy took her to one of the vacant homes in the area, not far from the house where she would later be spotted. The reason I believe this is because there was no way Mitrice could have walked to that area in the dead of night with the fears that she had of the darkness and wild animals that lurked in the darkness. It was more reasonable that Mitrice, if walking, would gravitate to the lighted areas like the freeway to seek help. I believe once the corrupt deputy had Mitrice in the vacant house, the corrupt deputy tried to sexually assault Mitrice. I believe Mitrice fought tooth and nail to get away. The reason I believe this is because since Mitrice was a little girl, she was taught that if a bad stranger got hold of her and told her to be quiet, she must scream, bite, kick, hit, run, but never be quiet and conform, because if she did, there's 100% chance that the perpetrator would harm her. Whereas if she put up a fight, she had a 50-50 chance to get away. Further, neighbors in the neighborhood reported screams being heard in the middle of the night.
Okay.
This supports my belief that Mitrice fought for her life to get away. Throughout that neighborhood were hidden horse trails for the community that went through the backside of the homes. Some homes have open-faced backyards leading from the horse trail, while others do not. We know that Mitrice ended up in the backyard of a resident who had an open backyard, who later called the intrusion to the Hidden Hills Sheriff Station. I believe when Mitrice fought to get away from the corrupt deputy for the sake of her life, she ran along the horse trail until she decided to stop and rest in the backyard of the residence. And once the resident called out to her, asking if he could help her, after she responded that she was just resting, which is weird to me also, is I'm like, why didn't she just say she needed help?
But
instead of I'm just resting,
I'm in trouble.
that's what goes to show that maybe things didn't click, or she was drugged,
or she was scared of them too.
Yeah, that's
maybe
true.
Like maybe there's multiple people here. Maybe the deputy did take her and rape her in a home, and then she, was all beaten, got away, or abandoned, and then somebody else found her, and that redhead guy, and
I mean, yeah. And then she says, I believe she got up and wandered down the horse trail and eventually to the neighboring tennis court and home where her scent was detected, never to be heard from again. I believe as Mitrice was wandering that neighborhood in her vulnerable mental state, the demented tormentor that lived in that community got hold of her and lured her somewhere where she would ultimately die. The reason I believe this is because many witnesses in that community had reported this young man and his triad deviant behaviors to authorities. However, this young man had been untouchable due to the financial protections and resources of his family. This demented individual also fits the physical description of the curly red-headed individual inserted in that disgusting mural of the Afro woman being depicted sexually in various stages until her death. I believe that demented individual subdued Mitrice somehow, be it physically or with drugs, maybe both. I believe the demented individual tormented Mitrice sexually for his deviant pleasure until she died. I believe he placed her in a box or some sort of container until he was ready to move her to the remote area where she would eventually be found. I believe this because Mitrice's naked remains suggest that her dead body was placed in that remote area where she was found after she had already died. You would have to be naive, you would have to be native of that area with property that had easy direct access to the remote location to know how to get to that remote area. I know this because I hiked the only public path to that remote area with the help of a search and rescue team who required me to wear all sorts of protective gear, harnesses, and shoes in order to scale rocks during this hike. I witnessed the homes that had easier access to that remote area, one of which is known pornographic ranch, where they film and photograph sexually explicit content. Mitrice did not wander upstream to that area, pull her clothes off, and then lie down and succumb to the elements, die, as the LACSD detectives would like me to believe. Mitrice's partially mummified body and the glittery artifacts found in her hair suggest she was at a contained location where she would eventually die. And this would explain why her arm mummified in a tightly flexed position, as if something was holding it in place. Yeah. Letice would have Mitrice's remains re-examined, and she would, and the lead detective didn't even know where Mitrice's clothes were. It was like, the fuck? It's like, her clothes was in the bag. You never sent it to the lab, and she can't trust these people at this point. So, of course, she tries again, and she's just hoping that they'll rule something as foul play. But the coroner's report came back the same. And in 2011, Mitrice would file several lawsuits, and she will settle for around $900,000 for a wrongful death. And they tried to get AG's office under Kamala Harris to review it in 2016, but nothing. They pretended to open it and then determined that there wasn't any sufficient evidence. Lee Baca, the sheriff that was involved, was eventually do a stint in prison for corruption.
Okay.
And Lettice would go on. She'd remarry Darnell. She'd raise April, and she's doing the best that she can. She said, because of my faith, I do believe that I'm going to see Mitrice again. When it's my time to go, I look forward to that day. And as of March 2022, an award had been offered for anyone who knows anything of her disappearance. And they asked that people contact the Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. And that is the curious case of Mitrice Richardson.
Wow. That's
Who is this person that's in the hills that they say is untouchable? That they think possibly it is. What is this triad?
Mm-hmm.
What is that about?
My assessment.
You got money.
you can get away with stuff when you have money, though. Yeah.
And also, if somebody is related, if you got money and it has anything to do with like political donations, you're fucked. That's just it. If he gives a lot of money, if let's say there's a hypothetical, there's this redhead demon, Chucky. Let's just call him Chucky. Mm-hmm. Living in the hills, who is a sexual deviant and crazy, and his father is rich as fuck, and he knows the sheriffs
area.
And goes
the area.
Yeah, it knows the areas.
They said it had to be somebody native.
Area.
Had to be somebody native.
Connected.
Reminding both of you that where this happened, it's in the Santa Monica Mountains.
Yeah.
You're not in the city.
Nope.
You gotta know where you're going.
Yes. And when you even look, and I will post this too, when you look at...
Where are you going to post it at?
Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
Okay. I'll do that. He always bitches at me. He's like, you never put your handles on. I'm like, motherfucker, it's in the show notes. No, I'll post them on Instagram because when you see where her clothes were found, when you see where her body was found relative to where everything else was, it's like, where is she? How? She didn't get out there on foot.
Yeah.
And then she's so badly decomposed, and her head was like kind of separated from her body a little bit, which kind of haunts Lettice forever because of the head chopped off thing.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It
but
seems like so much that
she's had a lot of foresight there.
as much as they're saying how difficult it was to walk in these mountains, just them.
Yeah.
How could one person do this?
It couldn't have been one person.
No, and that's why
have
I think that it was
people.
him and his homies, whoever the fuck. Because my birds of a feather flock together. You gonna always find some creeps that's willing to engage and be in the same creepy shit that you into.
I mean, and more than likely, it's not like they took her out there and did that to her. They took her somewhere else. They took her to her house. And if you're rich enough, I'm assuming it sounds like these houses are on big pieces of land.
I mean,
huge.
We can't say Manson can only happen once.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
We don't know what's happening up there.
That's true. And also, like, even when I watched some of the videos and they were doing like search parties, they were, those random people that were just living in the hills and trailers and shit.
Yeah.
Just off the beaten path type people.
That's the place to do it though. Because, and like they said, that's the pornographic hill.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's San Bernardino fucking valley.
Yeah,
that's
for
where
sure.
all the fucking porn
That's
was.
where all the porn was. All the ranches.
All the ranches. The city ends, and it's I think it's Canoga Park, West Hills. That's the edge of the city, and then you drop into the mountains. Like, yeah, you want to do some little
crazy shit? Go hide.
Little mountain porn, go out there, and then there's the weirdos.
And if you do it
there.
in the middle of the night, nobody would ever know. It's so dark out there that nobody would ever know. And if
That's
you know
where
it,
the weirdos live.
yeah, exactly. So it was it's hard to separate the mural from this, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
It explains a lot.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, even if the person who drew it didn't do it, that person who drew it knew somebody or saw it happen. And, you know, Mitrice's body having the hyoid bone missing and all her other neck bones were there kind of gives me the impression that, yeah, there's somebody internally that's trying to keep the system safe. It's definitely a cover up. I have so many different scenarios in my head of what could have possibly happened to this girl. But because, and this goes back to when we did Tamla Horsford, because they fucked up the investigation so bad from the very beginning, you didn't even test this girl's clothes, semen, hair.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and they said she was.
Oh, and
raped,
I'd like to also add,
test.
her panties were missing.
Okay.
Missing, or do you think she wasn't wearing?
Well, I mean, that's also possible.
It is possible.
But I'm just saying, her bra was there. Her panties were missing.
Okay, and how many? One model girl was like, how many people go?
I don't
without a bra, but I mean,
it depends. You know, she could.
I guess you could have boobies, and you don't want them sag. Well, she's 20-something years old. Is her boobies really saggy? I mean, I'm not a girl,
not.
but
I haven't seen a picture of her, so I don't know if she was busty. I don't know.
She was busty. I think she was like she was very, very athletic build, but she wasn't flat chested. So it wasn't.
She's
so
like,
her,
I need support, but I
can
go.
Yeah.
I don't want to wear no panties tonight.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. She could have not wore underwear. As a person who wears underwear, I don't even understand it as a concept. You know, but I know some people who like that. They like, I don't wear drawers. I don't feel like wearing them today. And sometimes I don't wear underwear like when I'm wearing like yoga pants because I don't want the panty line.
Oh, that makes sense.
But you know, I don't know. Her mom was just like, wear her underwear, and I was like. I think my only other issue is this. Unfortunately, as a mother, you do not know your child.
Nope.
So even those moments where you think you know what they're going to do or how they move in for real, there's the life that they tell you about. And there's the life that they're actually living. She's post-college. That girl may have stopped wearing drawers 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And, you know, honestly... in a case like this where panties are possibly missing, you know, that's going to always lead to like sexual shit. Like there's semen in the underwear or something. But
or I mean, they just forgot to pick them up.
Kept as a trophy.
Yeah, that too.
Or they forgot to pick them up because, I mean, clearly she wasn't murdered where they found her and all her other clothes. So they grabbed her clothes up. But the thongs that she had on were underneath something that they didn't see.
Yeah,
sure,
I mean,
that's
like
true too.
Earlier, they didn't clean up the crime scene. They left digits.
Yeah.
Of fingers that were or whatever
bones,
fell
her
off
finger
of her
bone.
Body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like they swept her. Like, did you get everything, guys? Did you? Okay, yeah, okay, we're good. No.
I mean,
so that's Mitrice, man.
Wow,
damn, man.
That was a good story.
That's a fucking.
I mean, not a good story as in like. Sorry,
it's interesting.
That was
to
a
learn
very
about.
interesting story. Like, it's very rare that I don't know a little bit about. And I've never heard this one before for some reason.
Good exposure though, because a lot of that needs to be said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our millions of followers need to go ahead and please help let's find these killers.
I mean, I just hate it too because I feel like this is the way so many stories end, where it's like,
especially
if it
women
is
of color.
Yeah, and even if it is just some creep in the mountains who got a rich daddy and he's doing weird shit and the whole community knows. Part of me was like, I'm gonna search Reddit because Reddit be narking on people. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's Bobby, But
I mean, that's what it is though, yeah. Like, we just need to get, if this can get enough exposure on get this some like Twitter exposure, Black Twitter will find the killer.
Well, but I was about to say, that's real. But two, like, even her, I will say, sources. So, read her mom's book, Mitrice. Also watched Unsolved LA on Hulu. So check that out if you want to just like get a visual of everybody. And then I watched
use real names in that one.
Yeah, they do. I watched Lost Compassion, which was another documentary that's on Vimeo that they did. That's actually in real time. So it's from 2009. Cool. They were everything. So all of that is going to be linked in the show notes so you all can check all of that shit out if you want to watch it. And then I read LA Magazine articles. I gave up on the court documents once I found out that they were inconsistent and everybody was lying. And so if you just want like a short version of this and you want to just, especially now that you kind of already know the full story, I recommend watching Unsolved LA on Hulu. kind of get an idea. And my mom originally saw something on Travel or on ID too. So, the story has been out. It's just that I think that if these people are as powerful as they're making us believe that they are, people are just not going to say anything. Yeah. And how many murders go missing how many deaths happen in the hood that are just unsolved because people are not going to rat on their own community. So
it happens all the time. Yeah.
So I hope you all learned something. I can't say that you enjoyed it.
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not coming into this, not knowing what about anything, or even like sadly the victim of the story. I learned so much, and it was very, very. It was mind opening. It's just about everything: law enforcement, victimism.
Yeah, everything. Grief, and also I think an aspect that I'd never dove into, like even other case before I even started a podcast, but just like even other cases that I just researched, I never actually looked into that process of having to find your child. Like we hear about John Bonet. We know about these missing cases, these missing girls that go missing. They have these high profile cases, but you don't always see the background, the messiness of what the families are having to deal with. And like when the situation with Gabby Petito happened, and everybody was like, oh, we need to rally and we need to look for it. It was like, but we don't know what her family was going through in the background. Her family could have been like, her boyfriend did it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in a way, I'm like, it was deductive logic. I was like, yo, if she was with her man when she went missing and he came home and he acting like, I don't know, he did it.
I don't mean to make this longer. I know we're trying to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if either one of you have seen this show. It was maybe mid 2000s. It was called Without a Trace.
Yeah, I love Without a Trace.
So that's a lot of the times, they go into finding cases that are unsolved. For her, it should have been, if they were going to use that type of, FBI source, it would have been like, immediate.
Yes.
Let's still find her. This was like months later. We're like, okay, maybe she's dead. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's
just crappy police work in this situation.
There are sources out there, and it sucks that, like you said, there are channels to use. It's not like there's a playbook.
No, for sure.
It's not like, okay, ma'am, step 1, we're going to do this. If that doesn't happen, step 2, we're going to go here. Step 3, we're going to... No, the people of parents or family or friends of missing people, they have to do it on their own.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the fucking...
I mean, the fact that the cops are like, we're not looking for her. Go do it yourself.
You'll find her over on Cocaine Road in Piuma. It's like...
Say what now?
She don't know where the fuck that is. What? It was frustrating. And it was also, I will say, Latice she was trying so hard to just keep her composure. She was like, that's me. She was just like, I'm not even.
Which has to be so hard.
About to.
And it's coming from everywhere. She had a dumbass
baby daddy. Yeah.
Like the cops being stupid. You got racist people. Like, I would have lost it.
Yeah, I would have lost it.
And she was bipolar.
Yeah, and she had all these other issues. I'm like, whatever she taking is working, because I would have fucking snapped.
Zoloft.
Straight up. So, yeah, y'all. This was a long one.
Yeah, thank
Part
you for
1.
having me on, though.
Yes,
for sure. I'm happy to have y'all, because this was long. I probably would have fell asleep by now.
Talking to yourself or just one person probably.
Yeah, because I researched it, so I already know the story. Yeah. So I'm trying to like tell it, and I'm like, oh fuck. It's like, but no, it's always great to have good energy to bounce off of. So,
yay.
Anyway, let's do it. All right, this is the end of it. I'm drunk.
Find all this stuff on her Instagram at.
Yeah. I don't know what it is.
I don't either, actually.
I think it's Swear to Drunk Podcast.
Yes, Swear to Drunk Podcast.
Yeah. And then, too, my personal is Lavender Bordeaux, which I always kind of post on there first because that's just what comes up
and
first.
then you can always find the drink we were drinking on her
TikTok, Notorious BLP. Now, here's the thing about that. I have not done that video.
Oop. So look for that shortly.
Video to come. Video to come.
So, all right, y'all. Hope y'all have a good night. Happy New Year. It's been great. Bye, y'all.
Bye.